Good afternoon, Super Kicking It with Steven fans. So happy to be here, ready to talk up all the good stuff we got. And back by popular demand, we have our good friend Greg. Welcome back, Greg. You loved it so much last week, you just had to get you some more, didn't you?
Absolutely, man. One help is not enough, man. I gotta get some more. Glad to be back,
And,
man. A lot of stuff to go
and
over.
WrestleMania Backlash coming up in 2 weeks. So I'm going to get my friend Jay back on and help us predict that. And of course, we'll have you predicting pretty much the same matches that we saw at WrestleMania, but that's okay because that's why it's called Backlash. One other side note about Backlash, Greg, I don't know if you saw this. They said last year we had Drew McIntyre, the champion, and Bobby Lashley. And now this year we have Bobby Lashley, the champion, and Drew McIntyre going at it. Can you believe that?
Yeah, not surprised. It's the time for WrestleMania rematches. We already seen two of them, and I
Exactly.
think once you saw that triple threat, already knew who the winner was going to be.
All right, just to give a little rundown so people know what we're going to be talking up. So we have releases to talk about, which are never fun, but I think these guys and girls will go on to bigger, better things. We have commentator changes, which was I was very surprised by last night's. Then we'll give you the Raw rundown, we'll give you the SmackDown rundown, NXT rundown, and finish up with some AEW talk because we have not hit that up, but they're starting to get into some good stuff. They got Blood and Guts coming up on May 5th, and then Double or Nothing, which I believe will be at Daly's Place again, will be at the end of the month in May. So AEW is going to be picking up steam. We have, of course, like we brought up earlier, WrestleMania Backlash is going to be picking up steam. So plenty of wrestling to talk up, especially with AEW and Impact Wrestling with Kenny Omega go against Rich Swann, which is interesting in itself. I think we got enough wrestling to cover here, don't you, Greg?
Oh, plenty. WrestleMania has got a big forward momentum going on right now. I think AEW kind of mailed it in. I don't know to just give it up right now, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
It does feel like, and I guess we can get into it later on, but AEW does feel a little bit in a holding pattern, is how I would kind of look at it.
Yeah.
Like I think they want to build up the Blood and Guts thing, but then I don't know what they're doing for Double or Nothing. I think that is way open in the air, which is kind of surprising because usually we can tell where things are headed. But right now, like Kenny Omega, I don't know. I guess we're going to go Moxley. But anyway, sorry, I don't want to get too off. So let's talk up first. Unfortunately, some men and women have lost their jobs in WWE.
Right.
Samoa Joe, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Mickey James, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Mojo Rawley, Bo Dallas, Wesley Blake. I'll start first. The biggest name right now, I think, is Samoa Joe. I really thought he would go to SmackDown. I thought him and Michael Cole would have been awesome together. I think Samoa Joe has really fit into the commentator role. Now, I also think he wants to wrestle and finish out whatever that is. So it's not going to be surprising in July if we see him on AEW. That's, I guess he could go back to Impact, but why not go to AEW? And then if they have a relationship with Impact still, you can still bounce back and forth. That's the name I think is really big. And then Chelsea Green, I do feel bad for her because she just got two fluky injuries or what, she debuted and breaks her wrist in that debut match. And I feel like they kind of held that against her. And that's not fair. Obviously, she's had to Impact. I think that's a pretty easy transition because Matt Cardona's already there. So why not just go back there? How about some thoughts for you, Greg, on, some of these releases? Any surprises? What are you thinking on these releases?
Joe is definitely the biggest surprise. I am a big follower of Joe. I've been watching him since his monster run in Impact. When he had the winning streak, I forgot how many matches it went, 100 so matches, and it ended with that epic feud with Kurt Angle, which was amazing. That was the best Joe. Those are the best years of TNA, which I think is no coincidence. Then when he came over to WWE, I was looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with him. They had a lot to work with. Joe is an amazing worker, and aside from getting them, a couple NXT runs with the belt, they pretty much just squandered him. There was one angle where he was Triple H's heavy, and I forgot who he was feuding with at the moment, but he's kind of Triple H's yes man. But aside from that, he's been underused, and I know there's some injuries came into the play with that, and that pushed him into the commentator desk. And he was doing good as a commentator. He started off super hot, and then I think he got a little overproduced, and he started to sound like everybody else. But he still sounded. He was more original voice than the other guys who have been there, like Michael Cole and all those guys who've been there longer than he has. There was still some freshness to him. All the time, I was hoping that he would end up, getting back in the ring at some point, whatever injuries he's working through, but work themselves out, because I think he is way too talented to be wasted at the commentary desk. Yeah. So to see he got cut was a big jolt to me, because there's so much money that can be made with him if you do it the right way. Give him that push and let him run with that ball. So I was very, very disappointed seeing that he got cut. But at the same time, I definitely want to see him over in AEW. I don't want to see them to become another league of AEW or WWE cast-offs, but
that's how it's turned into.
Yeah, it is, sadly. But they give them license to do what their characters, what they want. And if Joe is left to his own devices and can do the things he's wanted to do but hasn't been allowed to do, he can still get back to that epic Joe that we used to see in the glory days of TNA. So I'm excited for it. I want to see it, and there's no reason it shouldn't happen if Tony Khan is half as big a wrestling fan as he says he is.
And what do you? I also think Billy Kay and Peyton Royce. I think they ended up in AEW because you have the Shawn Spears factor, and I think the AEW needs more women. Honestly, I know more is not always better, but in the terms of where their women are right now, I mean, I don't know who you throw at Sheeta next. It feels like everything is just kind of up in the air. And I think it's interesting with Samoa Joe. He won the NXT title at a live event. Do we think that was? Do we think that was telling for him, or do you think that was just a let's throw a surprise live event thing? Because we've seen live event every once in a blue moon. I think didn't Kevin Nash back in the day win the title on a live event or something like that against Backlund? So and I do think when Samoa Joe unfortunately injured Tyson Kidd, I kind of wonder if that was in the back of their minds. Because unfortunately, Tyson Kidd could never get back. Right. But it does sound like he wasn't medically cleared, and he wants to wrestle. And like you said, I think AEW is the better fit. I'm guessing everybody at TN or Impact Wrestling, is probably gone from his heyday. So maybe he would go back there, because it does seem like I'll be honest. I follow Impact very on the surface. Like if it's on Twitter, I'll follow it. I kind of see where things are because of the relationship with AEW. And it does feel like everybody in control is not there that would have been there before. So maybe there's a different feeling there. So he could end up there. But now what about Mickie James? Do you think she's got a run left in her?
Not really.
Were you upset with her run in WWE? I personally wasn't. I think she got the match with Asuka. She did, her and Alexa, that was a really fun time for her, I thought. I guess you could have given her another women's run, but I think she did what she needed to do there.
Yeah, she's had a long, storied history. Her best days are behind her. So she's really kind of a nostalgia act at this point. It was good to see her back. She still looks good. She still can work. But is she believable going to, with a championship run? Not really. So, it is what it is. It's a good salute to the past, and help rise up the current roster. Put some of the young ladies over. So I can see her purpose in being there, but at this point, there's there's too much talent, and she's just taking up TV time that should be given to the younger ladies. So, um, we appreciate her for what she's done, and she'll get her Hall of Fame moment eventually. But it's a good end of the line for her.
And that's
And she may pop up in Impact or um, another organization because she
or
still
maybe
has
even
some
NWA
mileage.
and that's where NWA is where her husband is, Nick Aldis. So I could see maybe a small run there. And I think you're right on the ball. You bring up the Hall of Fame, what, maybe 2 years down the road. I mean,
Right.
they could even pull the trigger next year, honestly, if and then she could do like what, Royal Rumble to the Hall. She could do some small run and finish up and be, get her Hall of Fame speech and then move on. But you notice I did not mention Tucker. And any thoughts on Tucker?
Yeah, without Otis, Tucker is useless. Let him go away and reinvent himself, and maybe he can come back to something better. Bray Wyatt was Husky Harris once, so
Mm-hmm.
a little appearance change, put on some muscle, maybe have something later.
And then we got Kalisto. And I think Kalisto actually had a pretty good run for what he was. I mean, that feud with Ryback was good for him, and he got a US title run out of it. I mean, not many cruiserweight guys like him end up, kind of on that big stage. Mojo Rawley, any thoughts?
Oh, I never liked
Nope.
Mojo. It's just the association with Gronk kicked him off of my radar. So it's
Yeah.
he was just a whole bunch of wasted space.
And
He'll
the
end
only
up
thing
with his
with
buddy back in AEW.
you think he'll be you think he'll be an AEW or Impact with Cardona?
Weren't he in? That's what I was thinking. Weren't he and Cardona homies?
Yeah,
He'll end
yeah.
up with
So
his homie.
Cardona's an Impact, remember? Matt
Okay.
Cardona's an Impact. Yeah, it's hard to
He ended up
get there.
he had a
Go
match with
ahead.
Cody. I remember he had a
Oh,
match
Cody,
with Cody.
my
I thought he
fault.
was
My fault. Yeah, sorry. Okay, my fault. Yeah. And remember he did do that weird. He was trying to find himself type gimmick where he had the makeup on, and I thought that could go somewhere. He had it looked like a line shattered, but Bo Dallas, any thoughts on Bo? Bo knows Bo.
Bo knows how to fill
Bo
out
believe.
applications. Yeah, we Bo leave over him into ROH or somewhere else because Bray doesn't have that much pull apparently. So
Apparently not, because if anything, he would have been in. He would have been if Bray had the pull he did. Bo Dallas would still be there, and I think he would have been part of the Fiend type character or the White Family. Let's face it. But
right, why couldn't they have done something like that? I mean, this is a built-in storyline right there. They're
yeah,
brothers. He could have been his closest disciple. So it's a miracle Bo Dallas has been able to sit and pull a check for as long as he has. So he should be
and not
thankful.
even I don't even know if he was there backstage, which is really funny. And then we have Wesley Blake, whose heyday was Blake and Murphy, and I thought, because I don't know what Murphy's doing now, I thought you might as well revisit that if you're going to keep him around. And he got bounced around too because we had Forgotten Sons. Then he was going to do the Knights of the Lone Wolf, which is kind of an oxymoron because if you're a lone wolf, why do you have knights? But whatever,
Right.
It's Baron Corbin. We don't need to get a Baron Corbin anyway. So I don't know if Wesley. I think those names. I don't know. Kalisto might end up in AEW. I think he'd probably be more Impact guy. Because they got TJP, some of those smaller guys. Is that Chris Bay guy smaller? They got more cruiserweights. Because right now in AEW, I don't know if you really have. Well, you got cruise like Ray Phoenix and whatnot, but they don't have They kind of throw them all together. So
Right.
I could see.
TNA still have the X division.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't remember what their official But then did Samoa Joe win the X Division title once?
He did. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I thought
the
that was,
outsized member of the X Division. Yeah.
I was gonna say he's not actually, he's probably triple X. But anyways, so that's our release stories. I like we said, I think Samoa Joe, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Chelsea Green. Those are the four names I think are going to end up that really people want to see. And you could say, did they waste them? Probably. I mean, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce still got a WrestleMania title win last year, and I didn't think they were going to win it there. And then Peyton Royce got on the WrestleMania card this year. So it's like, I don't know. I always have a hard time trying to figure out what do they maybe underuse, sure, but they're still on TV. You're still putting on matches. Peyton Royce got that match with Asuka. So those are the four that I think, and I think you kind of agree that we'll see. We'll be most interested come July 17th. After that date, and like somebody like Samoa Joe, I think he wants to get medically cleared. So he's probably going to be working his butt off in the gym, trying to do what he can to get there. So, and Tucker's a guy I think needs to go to the gym and get his body a little bit leaner. I mean, obviously Otis is Otis, but I think Tucker could bulk up a little bit. And I think then he could come back in a couple of years or a few years and be some sort of, bigger guy than what he is. But other changes. So we had commentator changes, and this was surprising as well. So this is the new Raw team. We have Adnan Virk. I always remember him from ESPN, but he's of the MLB network right now. Byron Saxton and Corey Graves. My first instinct kind of thought it's still so early. Some people really hate Adnan Virk. If you don't know what he's about, then yeah, you're probably not going to like him because he's all about movies and he's all about inserting that type of movie culture in there. And I felt like he was finding his voice as the night went on. I don't know if you noticed that too. It seemed like he did like back a little bit. So as I was trying to figure out he feels like he should be like the Michael Cole guy in the middle. But I think as the weeks go on, he'll find his voice, and you're going to get a lot of movie stuff because that's what he's all about. And as long as they don't overkill it, and of course Corey Graves, I think you could throw him on main event, and he is going to make it enjoyable. So Byron is the guy that I'm still like, they kept him around, like.
I think that's what we all think. That was definitely a surprise seeing Adnan Virk there because I'm a huge sports fan, so I knew who he was. I thought it was odd that he popped up on, WWE television, but a lot of those guys are pro wrestling fans anyway. And we had to go in reverse with Coach going to ESPN, so that pipeline's been running for a long time. And I agree with that. It seemed Adnan was a little nervous, that first hour getting thrown into the deep end the way he was. I'm sure he had a couple practice runs, but nothing's going to, take the place of when that red light
Live
was on for
TV.
real. Yeah. And it seemed he got more comfortable as the show went on. And it's just odd hearing his voice for guys like us who grown up with SportsCenter and know about him, and it's just an odd setting. I'm sure it goes the same for him too. So I'm keeping an open mind to it, and hopefully it'll work out. I expected an announcer shuffle. They seem to do it all the time after WrestleMania, so it's not a surprise, but that they shuffled the announcers. But it is a surprise to see him as one that they picked, and then seeing McAfee end up on SmackDown. So, very curious how they keep rotating these guys and bringing these people from out of their realm into the realm. And I liked it better during the Attitude Era where every week you turned in and you knew who was going to be bringing you to action. JR and King, and it made it more consistent. It made it easier for everybody to do their job, I think. And this constant shuffling, I don't know, is going to be for better or for worse. It seems it's brought down the quality of the show with them tinkering with it so much.
it's almost like they treat it like a TV show too, because they'll be like WrestleMania till the fall, and then the fall will come around. They'll be like, oh, it's a season premiere, and I'm like, well, you're not really in any season, so yeah. But add in Verk because there is that Robert Flores. I see him post a lot about wrestling, so I was like, well, he might be somebody who knows down the road that might end up there, on the same call. So yes, you brought up Pat McAfee, which I was very surprised. I thought if anything, McAfee would be an NXT type voice.
Yeah,
and he seemed and he's a character, and that's the thing. Like you brought it up earlier, is like with Samoa Joe, is Vince or Michael Cole even going to have to be bringing Pat McAfee down? Not down in I don't know, in energy or vibe type deal, because how we both know how Pat McAfee is, but then again, they know what they're getting, so you're almost going to have to just roll with it. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought last night, like you said, I think it was that first kind of hour, he was trying to find himself and find that voice because, it takes a different energy to it. I'm going to be interested maybe on the pay-per-views, what kind of energy, will he pump it up? So some thoughts on Pat McAfee, because I feel like Michael Cole's going to work a lot with him. And then I think they'll end up okay together, as like really finding that mesh. So have your own thoughts at it.
Yeah, I thought the relationship with McAfee and WWE was fractured because they was doing that whole angle with NXT with Birch and Pete Dunne, and running their own faction. It had a great amount of momentum after that match with Adam Cole at Takeover, and he was running that group to rival Undisputed Era, and then he just disappeared off the camera, and all we heard was that he is indefinitely off of WWE TV. So what happened there, whatever it was, must not have been that bad because he popped up as an announcer. But
yeah.
So it's interesting the way they do things, because I would have liked to see what happened with the NXT group, because they seem like they had some good forward momentum going, and now you have Pete Dunne as the leader of the guy he left behind. So we know that Pete Dunne isn't set to lead anything except for himself. So, but anyway, seeing him on SmackDown was a huge surprise. And if you listen to his radio show, he's very bombastic. He's very over the top, and he's going to have to rein himself in a little bit. And sitting next to Michael Cole, he's the new Corey Graves. And I agree with you saying about that whole energy level, because Pat brings it when that mic's on, and so as these next weeks go by, he's going to be as or more insufferable than Graves was to Michael Cole. So it's going to be interesting to see how they two play off each other.
And could McAfee, of course, this is all my fantasy booking, could he bring up that group from NXT, and not necessarily he could still be a mouthpiece for them at times, but still do the role of commentator? I mean, that's obviously down the road, because I think Pete Dunne could get to the main roster right now. I don't know if Danny Burchinone, I feel like Danny Burchinone and Lorcan, we need tag teams. So I'd almost want to call them up now, especially like we talked about Raw. I don't know where the hell the tag teams are on Raw. So it's like, that could be something too to think about down the road. Because we haven't seen any call-ups or, I was trying to think. Well, we saw Rhea Ripley earlier, but yeah, normally this is the time when we see call-ups as well. So it'll be interesting to see with McAfee and the energy level. It's kind of, but like we said, what you're getting with him. Triple H knows, and Triple H has a voice, kind of on the main roster side of things. Vince McMahon knows because, he's probably worked with him. So, but interesting commentary changes and what voices we'll have to get used to, like you brought up. And we'll go right into it. We got Monday Night Raw, not quite the Raw after Mania like we're used to. it feels like a few years now since we've really had that. I don't know if it's going to take COVID really being a thing of the past and getting crowds back, but it does feel a little less energetic. And even this Raw, it kind of felt like, a paint by numbers Raw. There wasn't much happening, that really surprised us like we like. We did have Bobby Lashley defeat Matt Riddle. That's something I'd like to revisit down the road. I think those two could put on a really good match. I don't know where Riddle's going. Do you have any thoughts on Riddle where we think he could? Because it feels like they threw him away from the U.S. title, but now they're going to be like, well, now what? So, give me your thoughts on Bobby Lashley defeating Matt Riddle.
Well, like we were saying before our last week's show where we're doing all the previews, that I hope this is where they make Riddle less of a clown and more serious. And he was showing some of that this week.
Okay.
The comedy was toned down a bit, and when they got to the actual in-ring work, he was more serious. And it was a hard-hitting match. It was a good match. Mm-hmm. So I was happy to see that. He didn't get squashed in 2 minutes. And, we got a good match out of those two. So I definitely agree with you that we could definitely see more of that down the road. They need to build Riddle up, get him some good quality wins, and, show the kid has a brain. I know how the scooter is going to roll over as, go as a gimmick. They need to find something better for him. But, he's playing that California surfer dude thing. So maybe they think, oh, here we go, scooter. That should pop. But, even we can pass that if we can make him a more serious, more hard edge character as opposed to being just guy who's like totally missing the joke and the fact that he is the joke in every setup. So it's a step in the right direction for him with this last show. So if they can build on that, we got something, and him and Lashley down the road would be a good matchup.
And of course, I did get my Matt Riddle RVD moment at WrestleMania, which I never would believe that we would see rolling papers passed on TV.
Right.
But they did it, and whatever. So I still would like to, maybe some Raw we could get Riddle and RVD to team up just to do it. I mean, like we said, I know Riddle needs to get turned in that corner, but, maybe you do a Legend tonight or some, Raw Legends and then just have that real quick. So speaking of, we did see the return of the Viking Raiders. Much needed, obviously, because like we said, we got New Day, we have Omos and AJ Styles, and we have Elias and Jackson Riker. That's really the tag teams. Well, Miz and Morrison, sorry. Yeah. But, they seem like I have thoughts on where that's going. But Viking Raiders defeated Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin. This was a hard-hitting match. I thought this would be a squash match too. But they actually gave, Shelton and Cedric some time in the match because I'm still leery that they're going to end up on main event, if that. So are you in my camp of worried about them? Or where are we feeling about Cedric and Shelton right now? And how'd you think about the Viking Raiders returning?
It's about time for Viking Raiders. I don't know how bad the injury was to Ibar, but getting him out of chasing the 24/7 belt around and get them back to being what they were when they first came on the scene, then you got something. Because those guys are smash mouth, they're hard hitting, and their matches are believable. Looking at those guys, and they're definitely guys you need in the mix. Which sidebar? What in the world happened to the Authors of Pain? I'm talking about the depth in the.
Remember they got released last year.
Did they? Okay, I missed
sorry.
that one, but
and they haven't showed up anywhere. I don't. Well, and real quick, I forgot about the Ascension. And I'm surprised they have, and they're not in. They were on Fight TV or something. So, anyways, yes, longest. I think they were the longest rating tag team of NXT. But yeah, Authors of Pain are. I don't know. Obviously nobody's picking them up because they got. I think they got released last year at this time. That whole April 15th, or maybe like soon after. But yes, and so that would. But that would be a tag team that. I mean, you need them back, honestly. I mean, you you probably need the Ascension back.
Oh God, I would pay
no Ascension.
The Ascension back on the TV. No, they need a major overhaul.
Okay, but we got the Viking Raiders in the mix. Now, do you think Cedric, Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin? Do you think they're going to still be a tag team, or are they going to be back in catering in a month?
They could be. I think they need another. They like to need joint forces with Mustafa Ali's group. They need to join the Retribution, or don't unmask them. They need to form another faction because by themselves they're quickly becoming down to main event level. So they need a tweak. They need another mouthpiece. They need, more members or something, because those two have no drawing power on their own, and they're going to get by the upper echelon teams like Viking Raiders, like Street Profits, if they don't add another wrinkle in some way.
Mm-hmm. And Ali and Cedric Alexander have some history together anyway, so I think you could easily. Welcome Johnny to the chat. Thank you, Johnny, for joining us. He said, "Here's Johnny." So there you go. I think Ali with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin could really. I like that your idea that I hadn't even thought about that because I'm worried for Ali. I don't know what he's going to do because we didn't even see him on TV on Monday night, right?
Right. And that could be the thing. Right. He has no faction anymore. He could be the one that builds the new faction, and Cedric and Shelton could be his first new recruits.
And it would fit with the term retribution because they want to get back to where they need to be. And you could have Ali say, "I own that, so this is my team." Because we did see two former members of Retribution at the end of the night, which we'll I'm sure get into, but. Charlotte Flair cut a promo, which I knew would lead into the next match. Rhea Ripley, Asuka ended in no contest because Charlotte got involved. And then I think we're getting this Monday night. Well, Charlotte and Asuka. So I would assume Rhea Ripley gets involved. So we could write down triple threat match at WrestleMania Backlash. Rhea Ripley, Asuka, Charlotte Flair. It's not official, but it's official in Superkickin with Steven. Because I think that's where they're going. Any thoughts on Rhea Ripley and Asuka rematch from this Monday night?
Yeah, it's disappointing. I didn't want to see Asuka, take the L at WrestleMania. Of course, she is my hot Asian girlfriend, and they did have a great match. So I'll give them props for that. The WrestleMania match was excellent, and hats off to Rhea. It's good to see Charlotte pick a side and stick to it with her going heel instead of being a tweener and just, going into it whole hog. And so we know what Charlotte we're getting because when she is decided and on one side of the fence to the other, she's a lot better. And personally, I like her better as a heel than as a babyface. So I think we're going to be definitely set up for a good triple threat match at Backlash, which could be the match of the night. So I'm looking forward to it. That being said, I don't think my girl Asuka is going to get that belt back, but it's going to end up with her being the odd woman out, and this being a Charlotte and Rhea. You couldn't beat me last year, and now come to beat you this year. Kind of angle. So I think that's where this is going. And then they're going to have to find something else for Asuka to do.
Mm-hmm. And part of me, now, once again, I'm putting on my fantasy booking hat. When Charlotte was cutting that, I mean, it was a pretty good promo. And you could tell there was some, I think there was some real life feelings behind it. With her talking about being the prime of the division, I was like, Tessa Blanchard. Because I think her and Tessa Blanchard could really put on, and Tessa Blanchard could be another star power that could be added to the Raw side of things. So I did see Tessa Blanchard was working out with with Bailey and Sasha Banks, so I was like, maybe there's something there. But any thoughts on maybe Tessa Blanchard in the mix of either Raw or SmackDown, or should we just stay away from her because of life, outside the ring stuff?
I hadn't heard anything about Tessa Blanchard lately. I know she was, big girl on campus over in TNA, and I know she was thriving over there. I lost track of what she's been up to lately. She would be an interesting wrinkle coming over and getting into the mix just with the backstory alone with, a Flair and a Blanchard and stoking that rivalry again on the female side of things. So I'd be interested in seeing. I think a lot of us would be interested in seeing how that plays out, especially since they let Tessa go and she flourished somewhere else, and now she's a much bigger star than when she left. They seem to gain favor when they come back and get put in the bigger roles. So I'd be curious to see how it turns out this time around.
And like I said, I know there's some outside the ring stuff, so who knows what that's all about. But like you said, I think she's a name out there that it's surprising she hasn't ended up anywhere.
Is she a free agent now?
And that's
what the story is.
Is she what?
Is she a free agent now?
Yeah, she got let go from TNA or Impact. I think it's been since December-ish. She was the world champion there. She was the heavyweight champion there as well. So she mixed it up with the guys for a little bit, that's always been my plan for Charlotte. I would love to see Charlotte mix it up with a dude or two, because I think she could. Or even Sasha Banks.
Absolutely.
I think Sasha, with her and Reggie doing that match, that was something. And I think Sasha would mix it up with them. But yes, so Tessa Blanchard has been free since I think December, maybe even November-ish. She was cut from them. She had there's been locker room chatter about her, and then I think she wasn't showing up for things. So that could be some black marks on her. And that's what I'm like, I don't know. Like, she's out there though.
Yeah, she could be a little toxic, because I remember the whole business with, the racist comments and things like that.
Yes.
Some girls coming up out of the woodwork and, putting their testimonial, and she said this to me and yada, yada. So that could be making her hard to work with, as far as,
yes,
Vince McMahon or somebody giving their stamp of approval to bring her in. They could get a lot of side eyes from the current women on the roster, particularly the women of color. So
yes, and especially since those women of color right now are getting such the limelight. We just had the first two black women main event of WrestleMania. So she's out there though. I just thought, throw her out there and see. Sorry, where she ends up. So we next up have The Miz and John Morrison defeated Damian Priest. Just so we know, I did not think this is a burial match at all. People were going up in arms saying Damian Priest should have just killed them. But it's 2-on-1. I mean, Damian Priest has that look, but then again, The Miz and Morrison are two veterans, so in a way they probably should have been able to, beat him in a handicap match, especially since they had them both in the ring at the same time. So, and next week you could have Damian Priest go out there and kill them, So I'm not worried about it. I mean, I thought Miz and Morrison still looked embarrassed in the win. So, and I thought the whole riding off of Bad Bunny with Triple H handing him that case, which I had no clue what that was going to be. I was like, what in the world? And there was a microphone and all that. And so I think Damian Priest is fine. I don't know about you, but what do you think with this match that happened between Miz and Morrison? Oh, sorry. And I think I don't know if you noticed, but it was interesting with Maurice back in the fold. It seemed like Morrison was starting to get pushed to the side. So I was wondering if that might break up soon, which sucks because we need the tag team. But then again, we all probably want John Morrison to do more on his own. So, any thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. Is that Marie's coming back was a little bit of a surprise, and maybe John has a movie or something coming up, and he needs to step away for a minute. But once it's time to start filming season 3 or 4, whatever it is, of Ms. and Mrs., that Maurice is going to disappear again. Um, so I don't mind seeing her on my TV, that's for sure. But the whole thing with Priest is much ado about nothing. They're going to get the upper hand once in a blue moon, and the rest of the time could be spent putting Priest over. In, like I said, they were tag team champions. They should be able to beat them 2-on-1. So when it comes down to 1-on-1 matches, Priest is going to end up winning. And so who knows where it's going to lead to. It should be with Priest getting elevated to fighting somebody better, higher standing than Miz is. But I'm glad that Bad Bunny got his send off. And as it is, he's going out on top because I don't know about you, but that was one of my favorite matches of all of WrestleMania. And I expect it to stick out loud. So I'm glad that he got his little send off. He goes out on top. Triple H give him the case with the mic, and it's like, you go do your thing now. So now we know, okay, no more Bad Bunny. Yes. So I was fine with the angle, but when the guys from entertainment and other sports come in and for these 2-3 month angles, I don't want them to overstay their welcome and just go back to what you were doing now. And that's exactly what that whole thing with the case was signifying. And that definitely made me smile, especially after the end of that match, because it was the perfect bow on top. That was a banger of a match. I did not expect that. It was excellent. Anybody who hasn't watched it, I implore them to go back and do so, because it definitely overproduced, and it was worth every second I watched it. And but Bad Bunny, and now we're gonna get to see. It's just a launching pad for Priest to get into doing a regular program, and it's just a good Mrs. the Gatekeeper. So he gets this thing started, and he goes on to bigger things.
And even you could do the handicap tag team match again at Backlash, and give Priest the win there, and then he gets a win on pay-per-view. But I thought it's interesting. I can't imagine how hard Bad Bunny had to work before that match. Like, just think how much. Because I mean that was a like you said, that was a hard-hitting match. I mean, he pulled out a Canadian Destroyer, which is usually a no-no, just because of the. I mean, it looks scary to me. Every time somebody does it, it just looks like you're not going to land it. So, and to let some guy, like you said, some guy from the entertainment industry do it to you, I mean, he had to work his ass off to get ready for that. So I was curious, like, how long did he start? He had to be working last. You would think he'd have to start like before Royal Rumble time, because that was just, he was able to sell things. He worked on the mic. He was able to, get his moves in. So, like you said, a perfect send off. Our friend John is just tearing up the chat in here. Sorry, Johnny, you got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm trying to read it all. Keep giving it to us. Keep giving it to us. Yep, his music might not be for everyone like us, but it's okay. So, but
I never heard of Bad Bunny before this whole angle started with him on TV, and the Booker T video was the first thing I've ever seen of him. So I'm a metal guy, and I don't even listen to that kind of stuff. So, but it was a good way to bring him in and a way to send him out. So probably cheated as I would have had it been worse, as bad as I thought it was going to be. But with the end result like that, you can definitely see his dedication, how much work he put in, and it wasn't the standard, the wrestler
Celebrity
puts in
match.
90% of the match, hot tag, and then don't get the pin, which I think we all expected. So props to Bad Bunny, and maybe I'll actually watch a couple of his videos to see. But
well, now that when I turn on X, Sirius XM, if I'm scrolling through, he showed up a few times, of course, now, like on the it's like the pop hits type station. But yeah, it's funny to see Bad Bunny featuring or whatever, and I'm like, I'll listen for a second because I'm not a metal guy either, but I'm not a pop guy. I'm a punk guy. So yeah, we probably would butt heads in music, but that's okay. When we get our music podcast, we'll talk that up. But anyways, so speaking of women and music, no, not really. That was a bad segue. So Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defeated Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. I'm going to say it right now. I do not like, and I know this is so sacrilegious, I don't like what they're doing with Nia Jax. They're making her the butt of the joke when it was Mandy Rose who slipped. So if you're going to play the joke up, give it to the woman who did it. But I kind of feel like, and it's funny because, people always talk up, well, Nia Jax has the Rock in her corner. She gets some shitty booking for having the Rock in her corner. Sorry, my language, but, for somebody who has the Rock in her corner, Nia Jax doesn't get the best. It's like when Natalya had to fart on camera and she was trying to do that small thing. So, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler pick up the win. But I just think it's kind of dumb. I think if you're going to play it up, let Mandy Rose play it up. It happened to her, so why not? It's like Titus. They bring it up with Titus O'Neil all the time.
Exactly.
Titus O'Neil did not feud with somebody, and that person all of a sudden, I don't know. Any thoughts on this exciting tag team match? As you can tell, I'm so enthralled to talk about it.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Was when it happened to Titus, it was replayed and replayed and replayed, and every time it didn't stop being funny. But since it happened to a woman this time, you don't see the replays. I was eating or something like that when Dana and Mandy came out, and I missed it. Actually, I had to go back and watch it again after the show was over because I was watching it live, and it was worth it. And it's a moment that they could make a big thing by doing the way they did Titus. Just play it and play it and play it. And it's going to get eyes on her. We know it's not going to always be a great thing the way they get eyes on you, but you can get eyes on you. People are going to be watching what you're doing for the next indeterminate amount of time. So you got to make the most of it. That being said, I'm not digging the Mandy Dana tag team. It just seems to be just looks and not much else. Again, why let the Iconics go and give us these two? You had so much more work to work with them, the Iconics, but that's been endorsed. We just need to let Mandy and Dana go do their own thing. And the whole thing with Nia, she is becoming like the butt of the joke when she needs to be, one of the top 3 females on the show because of her size and her ability. And she's being defined down and doing these comedy things with the acrobat clown. I forget his name. And
Reggie. And where is Reggie? We did not see. We didn't see him.
Reginald.
We didn't see him Sunday night, and we didn't see him Monday night. So I wonder if they're already moving on.
They're not even paying that off. So she's getting useless material from all angles. And
she's in Big Show territory. I mean, essentially, she's Braun Strowman. You're just gonna have to throw her whatever and see what just make her do it. And not even like they say, make whatever salad out of whatever that say, make the best of it. Right. But I think they're just going to say, we're just going to give you crappy stuff, and you're just going to endure it. Because, like you said, I think she could be quite the ass kicker, but for some reason they don't ever want to. It's like Tamina. I mean, who would have ever thought we'd get Tamina chance at WrestleMania? And I still can't believe that. But now I will say out loud, we know why Mandy Rose didn't get it replayed, because she's a beautiful blonde woman. Because if that was Nia falling, that would have been, or even Shayna. Like if it would have been one of them two, oh man, it would have been up in arms. And I was like you, I think I was looking on my phone for a minute, and then my mom was like watching with it. She's like, "Oh, did she just fall?" I was like, "What?" And I had to like look up real quick and scroll through Twitter. But Nia Jax is essentially in Braun Strowman territory. I mean, at least she's got the tag team titles for now, and that's another thing. I don't know who's going to take it off them, because you're not giving any women any wins over them. You could have had Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke win somehow, but they didn't. So it's like we don't even have any teams that seem viable to beat them. So it's like, where are you going to go?
Do it with Natalya and Tamina. They looked
Sunday
like
night?
They were about to do it. Yeah, and I would have looked that a lot better. As it is, I think the best way to save face is to give Tamina and Nia that stage and let them just have a 5-star match. King Kong versus Godzilla kind of match, because they're equal in size and they're gonna it's gonna be a heavyweight fight. Using the not as a weight, but as far as how big a match it could be.
They're heavyweights.
Really great match. Yeah. So, let them go in there and have a series of matches against each other. That would be worth seeing.
Mm-hmm. All right. We did have the New Day defeat Elias and Jax Riker. We're just going to move on from that because the New Day won. Let's get to the final main event. Drew McIntyre defeated Randy Orton and Braun Strowman because Orton said he wanted to go off and move on from the Fiend. I did pass over. Alexa Bliss has a new friend named Lily. I'm personally interested to see where that's going to go, because that doll was creepy as hell. So if they have Alexa somehow in a mask like that, I'm all in. I'll just say it right now. I'm all in. But any real quick thoughts on Alexa Bliss and her promo, and then we'll jump into this main event and what happened at the end of it?
Yeah, lots of questions about what's going on now with the whole Alexa Fiend thing, because Alexa caused the Fiend to lose the match. I mean, that was the first head scratcher, and now with this promo, creepiest doll ever. Annabelle now moves to second place, and really curious to see how this is going to.
Could we get an intergender match? Could we get an intergender match for Alexa and Bray?
Well, it's possible.
I mean, that's the way.
You got two
creepy figures,
right? And they're not of this world, so using the license, so may as well. Why not? But it's
did you see
materialize somehow?
Some people did say
somehow.
Some people said maybe Aleister Black could team up with Alexa, but I don't know. Aleister Black doesn't have that. He's like a dark character, but he's not this. He's not like otherworldly. So I don't know if I would buy that, honestly. But like you said, I'm interested to see what the payoff is for Bray Wyatt, because now he brought back the Funhouse, and he did say there might be new friends along the way. And that's when I thought, oh, Bo Dallas. And then, of course, Bo Dallas gets the boot the next day. So I was like, well, forget that idea. But anyway, so Drew McIntyre defeats Orton and Braun Strowman in triple threat to get a WWE title opportunity at Backlash. But we saw T-Bar and Mace, I still hate calling their names, show up and wreck Drew McIntyre with MVP looking on. So I'm going to say they're not going to be Hurt Business members unless you take off the mask, you give their names back, you give them their personalities back. I think this is almost like the Baron Corbin thing where like MVP starts trying to find somebody to take out Drew McIntyre. Do you think they are going to become members of the Hurt Business, or is it the other direction and they're just there just to kind of wreak havoc on Drew McIntyre for MVP, but not officially aligned with him?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Is that if they unmask and then they can become members because two guys that size, put the suits on them, have them walk next to Lashley, it could be a fit. At the same time, it could be one of those interesting angles where Drew calls them out. Goes, I know who you are, Dio Madden, and whatever the guy's name is.
Dominic
Dijakovic. Yeah, Dijakovic.
There you go. I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah. He could call him out and just, expose them as it is. And so I can see where it does lead to them being a member of the Hurt Business, or the whole thing where, MVP is always, you got to pay to yada yada, and he just paid these guys as mercenaries to take him out. So next week's going to be interesting to see where the angle goes with those two. But they're not Retribution anymore. Their identity with that is stripped now, so it's a good time to recreate them. And it's just as simple as taking off the mask and changing your gear and your alliance. So it's an easy fix, and it would add depth to the show and to the storyline, and then it would make those matches relevant. So, but you got to define those guys somehow.
Because I feel like it's, what else can you do with them now? I mean, it just, you got rid of the Retribution thing. You didn't. That should have had more legs to it anyway. I mean, it's kind of like Nexus, where we thought that should have gone somewhere differently. I still will throw in that I think Mia Yim needs to be herself and be aligned with Bobby Lashley and MVP, especially because her and Shelton Benjamin have such an outside the ring feud. They really love each other, but man, you should see their Twitter engagement. It's pretty funny. So what better way than Mia Yim taking the place of Shelton Benjamin and like letting her run with that? Yeah. But anyway, so looking at the time, are you good if we go a little bit past 2:00 or not? Or should we rush through some of the other stuff?
No, I'm good.
I was just looking at, okay. We'll talk on air. I don't really, it's live, but whatever. I was just looking at our time. I was like, wow, we are at 1:30 now, and we still got a few things left to talk about. So, anyways, normal shows would just go awesome. Normal shows, we would do the usual Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, but today we did have releases and commentator changes. So, Superkickin with Steven is a super packed episode today with a lot of news. So, we'll do SmackDown. Took a small commercial break for some realty talk so we could catch our breath and get together. So that was Raw after Mania. I give it a thumbs in the middle.
Yeah, that's about it. It was a bit underwhelming, but it was worth it to see the new wrinkles, how the new storylines are going to start unfolding. But definitely not as good as the past number of years. Not counting last year's, but the ones before it were. So, yeah, I'm with you on the thumbs in the middle.
And I just didn't know what call-ups we were going to get. Like, there's nobody from, like, I guess Adam Cole, sorry. Adam Cole's the one name I'm like, okay, you're ready, man. Let's get you up on the main roster because I don't know what else he could do down there. And Io Shirai was another one. I'm like, is there more for her to do down there? But other than that, I mean, Raquel Gonzalez just won the title. Karrion Kross just won the title. I kind of think Finn Balor ends up in NXT UK, maybe so he could go home for a little bit and he can, do some tapings there. But other than that, it's like everybody else is kind of, just I don't see that readiness yet for some of them. So, and even last night, I didn't think we were going to get any return, any call-ups because it doesn't feel like there's any necessary call ups. So, usually they've called up guys too early, Apollo
Right.
Crews. Anyways, so well, even the Retribution guys, but that's a whole nother conversation. So, SmackDown, we had Roman Reigns out there, talking up his win. We had Paul Heyman talking up the win. We had Cesaro step up to the plate, look at the title, get a microphone, and say nothing because Roman Reigns is like, nope, I ain't messing with you right now. So, I'm a little bit mixed on this because I don't think Cesaro is beating Roman Reigns anytime soon. But it is a good test for Cesaro to see where he's at. Does he have that main event field? Is people behind it? So I'm kind of mixed. Do we just throw him to the wolves to see it? Because I think we still want Big E to be the guy that gets the Universal title down the road. But I think this could be good for Cesaro maybe through the summer, or maybe even start after Backlash to do a program with Roman Reigns and kind of prove himself and show what he's worth. So is that where you're kind of thinking, or do you have any other thoughts on that, where Cesaro is positioned right now?
Yeah, I thought it was easy for me to say. Cesaro would get more of a push up the ladder before ending up at Roman Reigns. It is a fresh matchup, so we'd at least give it some credit there. He did just beat Seth Rollins, and they're really putting over this UFO move really hard. I don't know about you, but I've seen it before. Granted, it's not done very often, so you get some points for originality, but I don't know, there's a lot of credit being given to an airplane spin, but at the same time, there needs to be some fresh blood. This is the new season, and I see him working, but I didn't think that this was the moment for it. But I don't know, give him a couple good matches. Like you, I don't think he's going to beat him, but it could definitely raise Cesaro's stock and get him in line for that top card status instead of that mid card where he's been living like his whole career. So, but I think we can get a couple 5-star matches out of Roman Reigns and Cesaro for sure.
I thought you were going to call him Zazaro, like Seth Rollins has been calling him. And that's the thing. Seth Rollins, I think there's still some legs there. And we saw that at the end of the night. And we'll kind of work backwards. So at the end of the night, we saw Cesaro defeat Jey Uso by DQ. But we also saw Seth Rollins come out there to say he's not done with Zazaro, as he calls him, yet. So, Backlash and maybe even Extreme Rules, I think, is after that, or Money in the Bank, one of the two. So maybe we could still do that, and then Roman we could probably save it for I started to say WrestleMania SummerSlam, which I hope we don't keep adding WrestleMania to, but I could see SummerSlam and Cesaro and Roman Reigns being that title fight. And who knows, then all bets are off, I think, because it would give Roman more time to beat people, and it could be something. But so maybe we wait till SummerSlam to really pull the trigger on that match. Maybe Roman Reigns keeps ducking him. Because right now, I don't, like you said, fresh blood. I think we'll get Edge and Roman again at Backlash. And then maybe Roman and Daniel Bryan, the next pay-per-view to kind of split that up. But any thoughts on Seth Rollins and Cesaro maybe just duking it out for next couple months until Cesaro gets pushed to that Roman Reigns match up?
Yeah, and I was relieved at the end of that match because of the Seth Rollins involvement, because it is too soon to put Cesaro in a title match with Roman. If you want to build on the momentum he's got right now, and so it was a tease. It was a nice little tease to show maybe down the line what we'll be getting, and the disrespect that he's already going to be getting going into that with Roman just walking away from him before he could say anything. It was a good moment. I liked it. And it's just, storytelling 101. He's like, you don't even have my respect. And, Cesaro going to use that as fuel, and he's going to take that into whoever he's, fighting next to show him worth it. And so I can definitely see, a couple more matches with Seth Rollins to increase his stock, make him look great, make him main event. And yeah, definitely around SummerSlam time, now we got something. And, Roman's beaten, Edge and Daniel Bryan after they come back. And you got a good match on your hands. So, and then we've had, another 2 months to enjoy Cesaro's matches. And then we have that to look forward to. And we're not just seeing it as, Roman's going to destroy this guy and who's next.
And once again, thinking a little bit long term, Cesaro right now might be the odds-on favorite for the Money in the Bank. Because just think about his look. He's got the look for the Money in the Bank type deal. He almost feels like the Cody Rhodes, where Damian Sandow won that Money in the Bank, but Cody Rhodes had all the momentum on his side, and Cody Rhodes should have won that Money in the Bank match. But I was thinking maybe Cesaro wins the Money in the Bank, and then we don't usually have a face, so he could just pull a John Cena, Rob Van Dam type and say, I'm cashing in at SummerSlam, so you can't duck me anymore. And then there you go. You have the face saying when he's going to cash in, so you don't have the surprise factor necessarily, but you also have some retribution. Sorry, dumb pun there, to the Money in the Bank. Because like we said, lately the Money in the Bank briefcase it's been worthless. I mean, last year Asuka wins it and gets a title. Unfortunate, because Becky Lynch got pregnant and all that. Otis won it, which he should have never won. But Miz won it from him. Miz wins the title and then loses. Baron Corbin lost his Money in the Bank. I mean, the Money in the Bank right now it's kind of losing. Like that used to be that was overtaking SummerSlam and Survivor Series for me in terms of like pay-per-views because it was so excited to see who's going to do it. Those ladder matches are great, but now it's starting to lose its luster because the Money in the Bank briefcase is losing. So I like Cesaro to maybe grab that briefcase at Money in the Bank and, hold it for even if it is a couple months and then say, I'm going to cash in on you, Roman, and, announce ahead of time. So just some thoughts there. Any thoughts on that idea?
No, I like that idea. Yeah, it's different when the babyface has the Money in the Bank than when the heel has it, and it is a different way to look at it, a different way to do it. However, if I wouldn't be against it if he gets it and then uses the element of surprise and catches Roman off guard after a big cage match or something like that, and then that's an unexpected way to take the title off of him. He comes out and UFOs him to death, and there you go, you got a new champion. So this validity and doing it both ways, but I would definitely be interested to see that, and I think the whole scenario with Roman and his invincibility and him losing the title in that way would make huge waves for a long time.
Because you could still build up Roman being so pissed off about losing it that way, and even if he wrecked him after, like Cesaro gets his big moment, and then Roman just wrecks him and walks away. Then you build that next match because then you want to see Cesaro completely destroy him or whoever's gonna. Because that's the thing, whoever beats Roman, I feel like it's gonna be interesting to see how they're booked after they beat Roman. Because that's gonna be the next step for that person, and that's probably why Edge or Daniel Bryan didn't win, honestly, at WrestleMania. Because do either of those guys need that win over Roman right now? No. So it's like we need that next wave. Big E, Cesaro. Those are my only names right now. But anyway, so with some other matches last night, Rey Mysterio defeated Otis. Anyways, Shayna Baszler got defeated because Shayna Baszler gets defeated all the time. I'm surprised that she still wants to be there, but whatever. Oh, and Natalya did beat her, so obviously we're probably going to get Natalya Tamina winning the tag. Well, not winning, but getting some tag title match. I want to bring up Kevin Owens defeated Sami Zayn because I'm going so different directions on what is the end game for this. I'll let you have your thoughts first. Do you have any end game or payoff to this Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn stuff, or are we just going to have them fight forever like we've always been doing?
That's what everybody wants, is them to fight forever, right? Yeah, I thought the angle was over at WrestleMania, and now they're keeping it going. So, no Logan Paul, no documentary crew. So all the other elements that formed this from the beginning being last year, aren't there, and Sammy's still taking L's. So does it make any sense? The only thing I can think of is that eventually they end up on the same page and end up back together. And right now nothing else makes sense, because what purpose does Kevin Owens have in continuing to beat him up? And he buys into the conspiracy theory business, or he finally beats sense into Sammy and he snaps out of it, and maybe you get the bad dream angle or something like that. I don't know.
And they win the tag team titles, and we all end up happy, right? Because I think that
him now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I thought maybe they might do a loser leaves type match, and then maybe Sami Zayn ends up on Raw, so you separate them again. But I like your idea. I think Kevin Owens just beating the sense out of him eventually is the way to go, and Sami's like, I'm done with this. He's not maybe admitting it, but it does feel like there's a few directions. You could go your other route, Sami Zayn finally convinces Owens because, they've been friends forever. I mean, and then they released a documentary. Or Owens starts getting screwed by stuff. That could be something too. Maybe Owens could get screwed by Pierce a couple times. And then you have Owens. Because I do like Kevin Owens as a face right now, but we all know Kevin Owens as a heel. I mean, look at him and Chris Jericho. I don't know if you saw the Chris Jericho pod or the Stone Cold podcast with Jericho. That was supposed to be the main event at the time, Jericho and Owens, which probably should have been, but Goldberg showed up and Lesnar was still there. So I think Kevin Owens still could be a good, like that Stone Cold kind of face. I think he is hindered without fans though, because you can't. It's hard to get behind what he's doing, because he's a family guy. He's doing it for the right reasons. He's always wanted to be here. He's doing the stunner. So it's like you got all the elements for a great baby face. But, it's just so hard to do it with no fans. So we will bring up the tag team champions, Dirty Dogs, which have no merch yet. I don't know why they haven't made merch for them, because you keep giving them a name. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode defeated the Street Profits, which I was kind of surprised by. But then that just means that the Mysterio family is probably going to beat them at some point for those tag team titles. That's all I got.
I was surprised by that too, because I think the Street Profits need to get the titles back. I don't think anybody buys into Ziggler and Rude, and nobody wants to see them on the screen. I like the way the match ended. It was pretty slick. I'll give them credit for that. But the Street Profits have been my guys since NXT, so I've been waiting for them to, get their one-on-one shot to get their title back. That being said, doing it in front of a crowd, in a big match would be more appropriate. So, let the story build a little bit more, and then, maybe it Backlash or whatever comes after Backlash. Maybe they get it back, belts back then. But belts are better on the products than Rude and Ziggler. And I think the fact that they don't have merch is pretty telling because maybe they don't expect to have them together that much longer.
Yeah. And I mean, hell, they gave them themselves the name. Like, it's not like WWE name. I think that's legit. Rude and Ziggler just using it on Twitter and then just, throwing it out there. I am hearing SummerSlam could be the first like pay-per-view with fans back. So that might be an idea too. Maybe the Mysterio family gets it till SummerSlam. Because I feel like they're going to, like, now that they beat Otis last night, and you'll probably maybe you'll have Dominic beat Chad Gable beats Dominic, and those, they'll get a tag team shot. So it feels like the Mysterio family will get the tag team titles because I'm sure that's what Ray wanted to do with his father, with his son. But
right.
I mean, like we said before, at least the SmackDown tag team division, we have some idea of it. Whereas Raw, and then we're AJ and almost, they were on TV for a minute, but it's like, where are we going with that? So let's take a quick timeout and we'll get NXT and we'll get AEW talked about, and then we'll get you guys off for the rest of your day. So here is our realty talk with our guy, Sean Nugent. So all your realty needs, hit up Sean. So quick commercial break for him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dan over at BWSports1.com and Black and White Sports. And I'm wondering if you're ready to buy or sell that home, now's the time, and I got just the person for you. Mr. Sean Nugent, a.k.a. Rockstar Realtor himself. 317-503-8322. Put that home on the market. Get into your dream home with this man. Talk to Sean at Talk to Tucker today, 317-503-8322. And make sure you tell him the boys over at BWSports1.com sent you.
All righty, and we are back, ready to rock and roll. We got your NXT, we got your AEW, even though they are no longer competing with each other, which I'm so thankful for, because now I can devote all my focus to NXT on Tuesday, all my focus on Wednesday, and Thursday I can watch Impact if I remember, or NXT UK, and then we got Friday SmackDown. We have wrestling every day of the week. That is so crazy. We're both probably big Attitude Eras guys and WCW guys and all that. I never would imagine we'd see wrestling on like every day of the week, legit. So that's just, and it's still not mainstream, which is so funny to me. Because like if I talk wrestling with like people outside of us, they're just like, what do you talk about? Like, just go on and talk to your wrestling friends. So, but anyways, NXT was on Tuesday night. We had Karrion Kross address the NXT universe. I'm not really sure who's going to step up next. I wonder if maybe Kyle O'Reilly with getting the big win over Adam Cole. Maybe Finn wants a rematch. Any thoughts, Greg, on who you think you'd like Karrion Kross to destroy next?
It's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Finn. Because I would definitely love to see a rematch with those two. It seems to be the way, though, that once the champ loses, he's on to bigger and better things. That being said, I don't want him back on the main roster because he has been excellent since he went down. Your idea of going over to UK is really intriguing because I can imagine a match with him and Walter would just bring the house down. And one of my favorite matches of WrestleMania weekend or WrestleMania week was the takeover with Walter and Ciampa. So if Walter can make Ciampa look that amazing, imagine what him and Finn would do. So it would be a good way to give Finn some love for being so amazing over the last year since he went down to NXT, and give him a good rivalry over in his homeland in Europe. So I like that for him. But as far as where Cross goes from here, some really interesting prospects out there. I would love to see a good match with him and Bronson Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude, it's definitely on the come up, and looks he looks great lately. His matches are banging, and he his size and his skill set, his ability would make a really great match. I don't know if he beats Cross, but it would be an NXT Takeover, 4.5-star match, which I think is what we're pretty much all signed up for. Who can beat him? That's still debatable with no Finn in there. I can see Adam Cole finding some way to cheat his way into a win. Kyle O'Reilly would be a great matchup. We saw, he can go for days. So I like to see that, but I don't see anybody beating Cross for quite a while.
And that's how it should be, because they've built up Karrion Kross so much. It sucks that his first run, it never happened. Like we're gonna do Men in Black and just make us forget that injury. But I've grown. I didn't know anything about Bronson Reed beforehand. Was he big on the independent scene, or did you have any background on Bronson Reed?
No, I haven't seen Bronson Reed until he got into NXT.
Okay. Okay.
I've heard he'd been doing well on the Indies, but I'd never seen any of his matches. But
okay, and that's how I was, and I've bought into him. Him and Gargano really worked well together. I just think there's that Bam Bam Bigelow feel to him, but he could go. I mean, it's amazing to see these big guys that could just go in the ring. Keith Lee, Kevin Owens, which technically Kevin Owens to me doesn't. Yes, he has a gut, but it's like he's not like Bronson Reed. But Bronson Reed is a guy that I'm like is really interesting. Hope my camera. There we go. Now I'm in focus. Got to show this money maker. Anyways, right. Bronson Reed I've really been into though, and I don't know what he was doing beforehand. But MSK, the NXT Tag Team Champions, defeated Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. I think the big thing there was it seems like the crowd's kind of turning on MSK, which is kind of interesting to me. Unless it's that whole way now you're on top, so now we hate you type feel, which tends to happen. Any thoughts on MSK and maybe the crowd turning on them?
I'm still out to lunch on MSK. I don't know what to think of them yet. I know they're building them up to be big deals. Mm-hmm. I don't see it yet. Aside from a couple flashy moves, I don't see how they're head and shoulders above anybody else, and they're not who I was rooting for in that tournament to win the belts. I'm a Grizzly and Veterans guy. I would have wanted to see them win. So I'm holding judgment on MSK, but I'm not sure what the pulse in the room is on them yet. I know they're supposed to be billed as, the big baby faces, underdog story, but I'm not feeling it yet. So maybe most of the universe is in the same boat where, we're supposed to like these guys, but why?
We don't know why. Yeah, and they've showed a little bit of their personality, like with that the Beth Phoenix stuff, and they were, there was that. But I feel like they haven't given them enough mic time to really explain who they are. They're indie darlings. I know that they came from Impact Wrestling, and people were building them up pretty big. But like you said, I'm kind of mixed on them as well. I just thought they'd win because of the Dusty Cup thing, and it just seemed like you might as well. But it is interesting that the crowd is kind of, and will you turn them heel because the crowd's feeding into it? So you almost have to. It's not like people are going to start cheering for them. It will just kind of keep their heelish up. So Mercedes Martinez defeated Jessie Camilla. Not much there. That's just the whole Robert Stone angle. He's another guy, like, there's something there, but, like, you got to give his brand some wins, or what's the point? Like, him and Chelsea Green, that should have been money, and then it went nowhere. And this Aaliyah, I cannot believe Aaliyah. I remember Aaliyah like 4 or 5 years ago. I feel like she's been in NXT forever, and she was doing more of a tutu type gimmick and just real cheery. And now she's, I think finding something better for her. Any thoughts on Robert Stone or anything like that, or we could just move on?
Yeah, the whole Robert Stone thing is horrible. I'd like him as Robbie E in Impact, and
Okay.
at least he had some meat on the bone. And when he's given some, stuff to go with, he can be pretty good. Whether it's being, the big, scaredy cat character, he plays that well. But it's just not enough to go on with him. It's just, this lame promoter gimmick, and it's not given enough screen time to make us care about it. So, he's going to enlist these guys and they're going to lose. Okay, next. It's time to be spent better on somebody else.
Well, it's like Malcolm Bivens. They've given him 3 or 4 different tag teams to deal with, be manager of or whatever mouthpiece, and it seems like they're just not going all in on it. It's like, the start and stop type deal. So, like we said, until Robert Stone brand gets some wins, I mean, why should we care about it?
Right.
This was a surprise to me, though. Kushida defeated Santos Escobar to become the new NXT Cruiserweight champion. Now, we were talking about Karrion Kross. We could revisit Karrion Kross and Escobar because they put on a fantastic match. So that's maybe why they got the title off. But then it's funny because Escobar just won that title that unified the titles, and then he loses to Kushida, who I knew needed something. I was afraid Kushida was starting to fall off the cliff because he just keeps losing. It's like he's wins one little thing, and you think that's going to be it, but now it's not. We thought maybe he might win the North American title off Johnny Gargano, and that never happened. So I'm okay with him winning, but at the same time, it's odd timing. Unless, like I said, they're going to move Escobar up and go against Karrion Kross. But then what do you do with, and maybe Legado de Fantasma gets involved with that. Or you just try to move all 3 up to the main roster. I mean, I think it's too soon once again. But Kushida needed something. He gets the NXT Cruiserweight title. So, spill your guts on this whole transitional champion.
That was a nice surprise. And see what they're doing with Kushida. It was beating the lower level guys, and then he was taking L's against the higher level guys. And I noticed that since he came back from injury, he had a bit more of a mean streak. His matches were a little bit more violent. He was going with the whole thing with the punting the arm and damaging the arm before he puts on that Kimura lock, or the hoverboard lock as he called it. And his variations on doing it, doing the flip off the top rope, and then transitioning into it to, it definitely adds some believability into it. That arm's going to be unprotected and he's going to rip it off. So I've been liking what he's been doing differently, because he was a little too nice guy, before he got injured and came back. And so, I'd seen him working, and his matches have been looking much, much better. And even when he's losing, he's only losing by the narrowest of margins, like his takeover match against Pete Dunne. Great match, great match. And Pete Dunne barely squeaked out that win. So even though Kushida had been losing, the title match Gargano and the match against Pete Dunne, it's only by the slimmest of margins. So even in losing, his profile is raising. And so now he gets his payoff by beating Escobar. And I think he's going to have a good, 4 or 5 month run maybe with it, and continue to build his name. And so I was very pleasantly surprised that he got that win. In the meantime, I think Escobar is destined for the main roster real soon. That's the only place I see him going. Having him have one more match with Cross is a possibility, since they started the angle and didn't finish it. But I think there's some room on Raw for him to go up and make a name for himself, especially if he brings the whole clique with him. The whole Legado Fantasma with him, and maybe join with Ray and have a whole new Latino faction, Lucha Libre. And it'd be even more fun if they were a heel faction, but I don't think that'll be it. But considering the three of them are heels coming up, and if they join with Ray, that would be an interesting dynamic. But there's a lot of meat on the bone to play with if they did something like that.
I'm sure Andrade would love that too, wouldn't he? Oh, Andrade. But anyways, so yeah. But I do think, or Angel Garza, we know he's not doing anything. So Humberto Carrillo. So you got plenty of Latino wrestlers there that, and it does feel like they're behind Escobar, because he got a really good run, as Cruiserweight champion, and then put on the fantastic ladder match. So I want the guy, his tag team, to get something, because I feel like they're another, they're that whole, they win something and then you think it's going to go, so then they lose, and it just never gets going. It's too much start and stop. So we did have a really cool moment. Rhea Ripley was out there, Bianca Belair, and Raquel Gonzalez were out there, all the current women champions, kind of doing a little champion salute. It's kind of funny to me to see Raquel Gonzalez double turn almost in a way, turning face. Well, I guess she's face because I'm going to assume Dakota Kai is going to kill her or, turn on her, and that will turn her face. But we also saw the debut of Frankie Monet with her little Poochie, formerly Taya Valkyrie, who's John Morrison's wife. So I'm sure we'll see her on the main roster at some point. But Frankie Monet, calling out Raquel Gonzalez, so we could go there. But I think ultimately the biggest payoff is Dakota Kai turning on Raquel Gonzalez. It's like Diesel and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. And,
we kind of run with that. So, but I do think in the meantime, we'll get Frankie maybe going after Raquel, maybe a takeover match. And then we'll see the jealousy start to seep in for Dakota Kai, because she's kind of got that little, I think she's got that mean girl streak in her, it looks like. So I'm really interested to see that, especially for, Dakota Kai was somebody that, what was it, the Mae Young Classic years ago, that I just didn't know would. It's been interesting to see her transition to what she is. So, and then Raquel Gonzalez was on that Mae Young Classic as well, I believe, or one of the years. So it's been interesting to see like how big they've become. So, any thoughts on all this whole women's division in NXT right now?
Yeah, it was a great shout out to NXT, because all those women were prominent in NXT, and now they all have the titles. It's definitely building for Dakota Kai to turn on Raquel. So I was listening to the speech that she gave about being on the come up and not being ready and all that stuff, and she left Dakota Kai out of her thank yous. Dakota brought her out, and she still left her out of the thank you. So that could be a thing that it gets mentioned down the road. And there's that one moment that I noticed where she's holding up the title, and Dakota's got that little eye up at it. Just real subtle. But what's coming? I almost thought it was going to happen right there. And so it's all the signs are there. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And it's a great send up to, this is what you get when you watch NXT this is how great our women's division is. Look at them, all of them champions and stuff. So I'm loving what they're building here, what they're doing, and I was definitely thrown off a little bit when Rhea came out, because that was the last person Dakota or Raquel beat before she left. And they had a great brawl in that last woman standing match, I think it was.
Yep.
That sent her up to the main roster. So I thought we might have another fight going on. And then Bianca's music hit, and I was like, oh, okay, they're doing this. So it was a great moment, and it was fun to watch. But yeah, it's definitely setting up for Raquel to be, a new babyface, for the set up instant rival with her and Dakota. And I was wondering about Frankie Monet, because I was looking at it, it's like, is that Taya Valkyrie?
Oh.
And I was about to Wikipedia just to make sure, because she looks so much different. And I remember Taya from Impact and Lucha Underground.
Okay.
And R.I.P. Lucha Underground. It was my favorite show for the number of seasons that it ran. And I thought it was her, but I wasn't sure because she looked so much different. But now you confirm that. So I knew I was.
You're not seeing things.
Yeah. So Taya can go. So I am excited to see how she performs with Raquel. But Taya's a powerhouse. Or Frankie now is a powerhouse. And so that's another set of great matches just waiting for us. So I'm excited for what's going to happen with the NXT women. And then you have the Sarray girl coming up. So I don't watch Japanese wrestling, and I don't know who she is or what she does. But
they've had pretty good luck with Japanese women, so I'm going to assume she's pretty strong.
Exactly.
I don't have any worries about that.
Right, it was Io, and they've all killed it, and so
Kairi Sane,
excited to see. Yep.
So
I'm excited to see what's going to happen with her.
And of course, we'll get a mixed gender match with John Morrison and his wife, and Miz and his wife at WrestleMania next year, right?
Hey,
actually, wait, no, sorry, 2 years, because Hollywood, WrestleMania 38 will be or 39 will be in Hollywood. So you got to pull the trigger on it there, because they all have the Hollywood, because John Morrison has, some acting cred. Miz and Maurice already live in LA and all that. So so Taya can go in the ring. I've tried to watch Lucha Underground, and it was on Netflix, I think, the first season or first two. I mean, it feels like a TV show to me. And because even the credits roll at the end, and I'm like, I just can't. I don't know. It was hard for me to get into.
It was a great Mexican soap opera, is what it is.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I caught onto it at the end of season 2.
Okay.
And I watched it religiously until it ended at season 5. And right now, it's on the app Tubi, Tubi.
Okay. And that's where
you can watch every season up to the last episode, and I still miss Lucha Underground. The violence and how unfiltered it was, the things they did. You can't see that in anything that's U.S. based. It was amazing, and so
a lot of current guys are from there,
right?
Like in AEW, and Ricochet was Prince Puma back in the day, right? So
And Santos Escobar was King Cuerno.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he always wrestled with the mask.
Yep.
Escobar.
Ray,
okay.
Yeah, Ray Phoenix. And so those guys are scattered to the winds, but man, I miss Lucha Underground so much. But it's Taya, and Karrion Kross had a stint in Lucha Underground too.
Okay. That's right.
The Rabbit Tribe. So
Wow.
So
All
yeah,
right.
shout out to Lucha Underground.
And shout out to Tubi. You want to give us a
Yes,
sponsor?
sir.
We're right here for you. I
There you go.
Speaking of Tubi, I do watch Kitchen Nightmares on there, and that's been really fun to watch. But anyways, that's been my viewing
yeah.
on Gordon Ramsay. Whoo, man. Isaiah Swerve Scott defeated Leon Ruff in the feud that will never end. I don't know what this payoff is either. So, but finally, we saw Bronson Reed, Dexter Loomis, Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, the current women's champions of the tag team division, defeat The Way in an 8-person tag match. The big news there was Dexter Loomis carrying off. Here we go. Carrying off Indy Hartwell, giving the wink. So, and she almost kissed him. Man, I love The Way. I'll just say it. I do. Like, I did not ever think I would buy Johnny Gargano as a, kind of a chicken heel. Well, he's not even really a chicken because he still puts on fantastic matches. That's the thing.
Right.
He wrestles like a baby face, of course, but then, and I just love this angle and this whole, they're treating them like they're kids. It's just so funny to me because they're probably, 5-6 years apart. They're probably pretty, early 30s and they're probably late 20s. So I love The Way, but I also love Bronson Reed, Dexter Loomis, Shotzi Blackheart, and Ember Moon. So it's like, this is just a win. It's like all 8 of these guys, when everybody's like, both these guys. Now, this is like all 8 people. But, The Way, and man, we could have got so more out of those therapy sessions. I mean, Dr. Shelby, come on now. Like, why did you not call Dr. Shelby in there?
Right.
So, and now I think they want to sell the headband that Johnny Gargano was sporting. So, yeah, I think I love The Way. I just need them to win a little bit. It is funny. Gargano keeps winning, but nobody else does. So it's like I want Candice LeRae to get the women's title at some point. I don't think she gets it now because Raquel is there, primed to, go for a long run. But at least the tag team titles, I think, could be something. And then Austin Theory could be kind of odd man out, and maybe he ends up, he becomes the big star out of there. So, any thoughts? Do you like The Way by chance, Greg, or how are you feeling about this tag team 8-man match, 8-person match? Sorry.
The Way's been kind of hit and miss for me, but Johnny Gargano has been the perfect guy to lead it. His comedy has been amazing. Just every bit that he's in, I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. And them as a group you shake your head at it, you cringe a little bit, but we get the joke, and in the end, it comes down to they can go when they get in the ring. That match though was Hot Mess Express, but I'm sure it was all just built up so we can see Dexter Loomis and Indy, get their King Kong and Fay Ray on. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen, if this is going to end up with The Way splintering because they've lost a family member. But again, they've made themselves must-see TV, so we're all tuned in to see what happens next. So,
they've carried NXT TV, I think, honestly, because NXT is kind of in that same, I think, holding pattern of AEW. I think it's now they're getting more fans back, but without the fans there, it's losing its shine, I think.
Yeah, I agree. More than any other of the WWE program, in NXT has been fueled by the crowd. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a bigger deal than it is when the fans are in there and they're chanting, because they're all dialed in and they're all, here for it. And everybody who's in the ring seems like a bigger deal than they are when that crowd is there and they're firing everything up. So I think that's the first thing that got me into NXT, is seeing how engaged that crowd was, and it made everything just look 1,000% better. So more so than Raw and SmackDown, NXT really needs that crowd to, get those wrestlers over and bring you in to the living, come into your living room more so than the other two programs.
And plus, those wrestlers some of them are veterans, but they're not veterans to the WWE way, which is different, let's face it, than, independent scene. So, like Raw and SmackDown, I think those guys work and girls work better without the crowd because they've been doing it. They've been they know which camera to work. They know how to tell the story. You're out there for the most part. Whereas NXT people, men and women, some of them are still trying to learn, okay, I got to talk to this camera and share this emotion. And if you don't have that crowd behind you, you don't know how it's reacting. How do you know to react yourself? So it's been interesting to see. And we were so spoiled because NXT did have I think they had a pretty good crowd there. Because if I remember right, there was even fans behind the announcers, and then there was all the two sides. So they let in maybe 500 to 600, maybe, probably a little bit less, but probably 100 to 200 fans in there, and that made a world of difference. Just like at WrestleMania, those 25,000 fans, like, it sucks going back to the virtual screens. I feel like I need a virtual audience behind me now, but in AEW, I think it's like they were picking up steam, and then the COVID hit, the pandemic hit. I mean, that was the debut of Matt Hardy, of Brody Lee. Dark Order was picking up steam, and now, and so, it's just been interesting. We'll finish up with AEW, speaking of which. I'll just kind of hit some matches here that I don't think we'll talk too much because, like, a Go-Go defeated Carter with one punch. I will ask you, though, Greg, what are your feelings on the Factory? So we're not calling them Nightmare Family because they splintered off from the Nightmare Family, and now they're the Factory. So it's QT Marshall, who I don't care for at all, Anthony Ogogo, Aaron Solo, and then I always forget the last guy because he looks like Booger from the Revenge of the Nerds to me. Do you know who I'm talking? I don't know, but the fourth guy, Cremamente or something like that.
Yeah, I have no idea who that guy is.
I'm sorry. I should have done my homework. I apologize. If you want to tell me in the chat, is Johnny still there in our chat? He could tell me. But anyways, pretty much Anthony Ogogo is going to be the big star out of this Factory family. They're calling them the Factory. Do you have any thoughts on? I'm kind of over all the different factions of AEW. Some people said it's the way it should be because that's how New Japan does it. But I also want some guys just out for themselves. So any thoughts on the Factory and, where you stand kind of with all the different factions in AEW?
Yeah, I agree with you. There's way, way too many in AEW. It's everybody is either in a faction or a tag team. And, they just put Moxley with Eddie Kingston. Matt Hardy has his own group. Chris Jericho has his own group. MJF is his own. All these guys who were walking for themselves are, affiliating with somebody. As of right now, I think Lance Archer is the only person that doesn't have, involvement with a tag team or a group. It's way too many factions to keep up with. And it's just muddying the waters. 1 or 2, maybe 3, if they're distinct and individual enough, makes sense. But for everybody to be splintered off into these factions is just going to, muddy the water. You know who you're supposed to be cheering for. These guys aren't clearly defined. Are the Dark Order heels or they're baby faces? They're
a comedy
heels.
act.
They're becoming. Yeah, now they're kind of a joke. They used to be serious heels. And I know that all was spurred on by Brody Lee's death. But they're way too undefined. There's way too many of them. And it's just confusing everything to where, you don't know who you're supposed to root for. And it's too many groups to be able to do any in-depth character development as if you have a bunch of singles wrestlers you can concentrate on and build them up properly. You can't do that the same way with a group that has 5, 6, 7 members in it.
Well, it's probably telling. We can't even think of that fourth member of the factory. Like honestly, that's telling. I mean, he was out there. I know he was out there, and I could see him, but I can't think of his name. So, and obviously, like we said, Ogogo is going to be the guy that they're building up. He's going to get the match against Cody, and there's something about QT Marshall that just I don't know. He rubs you the wrong way. Like I can't pinpoint it. I just don't know. Like I don't know what it is about him, but and then Dark Order. I always going to ask you your thoughts on Dark Order because they're another group that Hangman Page does not need to be involved with that, but he is because they just don't have that, and yes, it's sad because Brody Lee was that glue. I mean, he held that group together. He got them to that next level. You were never going to replace that. And I think that's why they've kind of, the BTE stuff, because even Brody Lee being involved with some of the BTE stuff, it would still get back serious. But now it's just, I don't know. It doesn't work for me with them. Do you watch BTE, by the way?
No, I've never watched an episode.
Okay. I mean, it's really good because sometimes there are stuff that goes from that to Monday or to Wednesday night. But, you think about how back in the day it was groundbreaking because you had Matt and Nick Jackson and Kenny Omega think, you know what? We're just going to videotape our lives. And to think that, because that's all people do nowadays, honestly. Right. So, or like Zack Ryder back in the day, like to think that Long Island Z story, like, man, but the Dark Order on there is just, it's all comedy. So I don't know where they're going to go. Speaking of not knowing where things are going, the Young Bucks defeated Death Triangle to retain their titles. We have the Young Bucks back aligned with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers and Don Callis. And some people brought up, it's interesting that Don Callis had said the best tag team in the world, speaking about the Young Bucks. So does that mean the Good Brothers are going to split her off again? Which they shouldn't, but I don't know where. That's a too many people group, and it's only 5. But that's too many cooks in the kitchen. Right. And even the Young Bucks, like Matt Jackson had this that, and I know I'm supposed to hate it, but I legitimately hate it. That whole tassels hanging from his headgear. I don't care about the Dior Jordans because there's Dior Jordans. I mean that's fine, but the whole that thing. So, any thoughts on what I don't know what we're calling them? The elite. I guess. But yeah, what do you feel about the Young Bucks back to line with Kenny Omega?
Well, I'm not surprised by it because they never seem far on either side of the fence. They always straddled the middle. And towards the end of that match last week, I was kind of seeing that they are going to turn on Moxley. And sure enough, they did. But I'm one of those people who, like I mentioned before, I don't watch the Japan stuff because I can never find it. So I haven't watched New Japan or all the Japanese promotions where these guys really made their names, like Omega and the Bucks. And so I'm not sure. I didn't know all the Bullet Club stuff. And, they've been riding together in Japan for 10 years, 12 years, however long. And I speak for a lot of us, we don't watch the Japan stuff. So, they're doing their own little inside joke with those fans, a very small subsection of, AEW's fan base where, unless you're in on the Japan stuff, you're going to miss the joke on, what's going on right now. And they shouldn't be catering to that 1/10 of 100%. Because it's going to get everybody over more by just explaining everything outright, the whole business with the old Young Bucks and the new Young Bucks. And we only see what's happened since AEW opened their doors for the other 90% of us. So just keep flashing back to that, I don't know who the cleaner Kenny Omega was. I don't feel like YouTubing it to watch however many months or years that he was the cleaner. So we don't know who he was in that whole business. So you need to either explain it or redefine it so we can all be in on it. Um, so, but I think Don Callis refers to them as the best tag team now that they're with him. Before it was the Good Brothers. So um, I think there's going to be a splinter eventually. But what happened with the FTR angle? There's too many things that are being ignored, or um, there's too many
Put to the
puzzle
side.
pieces that don't fit. Yeah, and
There you
so
go.
they need to do a better job of defining what they're doing with these guys. We see they're all heels now, and now the time is to really tell the story and get all of us involved, because it seems like right now they're just playing to that 10-15% of the crowd who's familiar with all the Japan stuff, and the rest of us are missing out on the joke.
Well, not to, well, here's kind of like a music analogy. It's like that indie band that got signed. They're on a major label. So they got that crowd loving them, but then they're trying to get back their old fans. And so I feel like they're trying to get back the old fans, but the old fans are hating what they've become. So it's like, and I mean, and part of it could be, I mean, they're legit EVPs. So they're trying to book themselves how they think they should be booked. Well, sometimes that's not the best. You need that other voice to say, hey, maybe you need to do this. It's like throwing Hangman Page in Dark Order. Like, why is he there? Like, I know nobody's going to fill that Brody Lee, and nobody should have to fill that Brody Lee void, because that he helped get that to where they need to be. But I do feel like it's music. I hate, I know it's wrestling, but wrestling and music fan bases are pretty finicky if you haven't realized. So it doesn't surprise me that, like, especially being a punk rock guy, if you got this punk rock band that you've seen at the 10-person club, and then all of a sudden they're selling out, a venue, and you're like, should I still like them? Because they kind of change. And even the Young Bucks seem to change a little bit. They're still doing the same hits, in their move set, but I don't know. There's just something not there the same. But
that's the thing.
We'll see where it goes.
See what the old and new Young Bucks begin and end, because aside from cutting their tassels off, it's the exact same team. They're doing the exact same moves. There's nothing different about them. So,
and who's going to come for them? Like, there's no team. There's no fate, because if they're heel and face works best. You can't have the Pinnacle guys go after them, because the Pinnacle's got, Inner Circle now. I thought maybe Death Triangle would get the tag team titles just to do that. But then also you had, Pentagon trying to go after Cody Rhodes. So it's like you said, there's a lot of pieces, but for some reason, it's just not aligning. They're not connecting like maybe last year. So Jade Cargill, though, she's looking like the real deal. She defeated Red Velvet. I thought a little bit back and forth, and then Jade just took over. She got the big win with Shaq. So obviously AEW is high on Jade. I don't know if she gets in the women's title picture yet, because I feel like if she does, she's got to win that title. So, and you got Britt Baker still there, who I think, why have they not? Britt Baker feels another one. It's like, I think now they're finally be like, okay, we just got to go with her. First it was a little bit, pull back, a little bit. Now they're like, you know what? We just got to go with it. Like, Britt Baker just put on that Thunder Rosa match. That was ridiculous. Like, I don't want to know how those women felt. Like, Thunder Rosa must still be feeling the effects, because she hasn't been back on TV since. But, we also had Chris Statlander, who I'd never seen before until, in AEW. But man, she's grown on me a lot. She's a goofy character, but man, she could go in the ring. She defeated Amber Nova, I believe it was. So you're starting to build up that mid card. I know Jade is going to be she's going to be main event women's wise sooner rather than later. But you need Statlander there. Trying to Big Swole maybe there. So because they got to start running with that women's division. I know it's only going to be year 2, in October, but you got to eventually find your way with that, because that's another fan base you could get. I will say AEW is great because they have that AEW Heels women group. So it's like, they want to, but on TV, they're not doing it. They have a group of women and it's an open invite to women, and they meet on Friday nights on Zoom or whatever and, do a thing. But if you're not translating that on TV, then what's the point of that? So any thoughts, Greg, on the women's division as a whole on AEW? I know I kind of threw a lot out there, but I figure right now the women's division is kind of all over the place. So any thoughts there?
It is. It's a big mess, and we need to organize it. There's some great characters in there. I love Sheeta. She doesn't have a bad match. Thunder Rosa's grown on me. I didn't know what to think of her at first, but I'm really liking what she does. I'm not a fan of Serena Deeb. And I think they're missing a lot of their talent, like the Japanese women that just started coming back in that tournament they just had, like Rio and
Emi Sakura.
Right. There's a lot of them who are still stuck over in Asia and things like that. So they're missing a portion of their roster. Love Britt Baker. And she seems to be the natural next challenger for Sheeta, but it was like, why haven't they done this a long time ago? I'm loving Jade Cargill. She looks like $1 million, and it looks like she would have a banging match with whoever got in the ring with her. She even made the Red Velvet look good. So imagining her and Statlander, or her and Nyla Rose, maybe. I know they're both heels, but she's about being the alpha female and dominating everybody. So there's a
that can still play in her favor.
Yeah. But it's very
Red Velvet is
disjointed.
Red Velvet is one I don't know. Like, I'm kind of lost on her, but I think Brandy Rhodes loves her. Loves her. So I think that she's going to get something, down the road. And Britt Baker, of course, was the first signee of the women's division. So you got to believe that at some point you just got to put your eggs in the basket on her. So sorry to interrupt. Did you have any finishing thoughts on there?
No, but my prediction is that Britt will become the next champion, because the story just writes itself. The promos that are going to come after that, the way she's going to do every heelish thing in the book to keep her title after she wins it. It's going to help create some of that organization that they definitely need, with setting up a line of contenders, the match possibilities and things like that. So as much as we love Sheeta doesn't get on the mic and throw down an awesome promo. She isn't doing things that make us love her or hate her more, like Britt does. So I think she's the one who should dethrone Sheeta and give the spark to that women's division.
And I think a lot of that is the Kenny Omega influence, because I hear he's trying to take on the women, as his wing. But, 2 of the 3 champions have been, Asian. And, I mean, Sheeta's trying her best on the mic. And I don't remember Rio cutting many promos. Like, Rio, was the first women's champion. I don't remember any of her promos. So I think we got it. Like you said, you got to find that woman that can talk the talk and walk the walk. And we know that with Britt Baker. I mean, if anything, they're going to probably have to turn her face pretty soon. I think if there was crowds back, I think she'd be cheered the hell out. She'd be cheered so loudly, it'd probably be crazy. So we had Jericho defeat Hardwood. I'm going to save kind of that till May 5th because I feel like that's when we want to see what all happens. That's our the blood and guts match. I want to see how it unfolds. What are the rules? What's going to happen there? And then finally, Darby Allin defeated Matt Hardy to retain. This is the Darby Allin I want to see. Singles matches, the stuff with Sting, fine, because Sting needed to do something. But we're not going to know what Darby Allin can do until he's there week after week, putting on matches. Obviously they want him to do something because they gave him the title. Well, plus Cody had to, I think Cody has to take a back seat anyway. But I feel like there's something there for Darby Allin. And, I think he's better than Jeff Hardy, actually. I like him a little bit more with what he does. So, it's interesting that he just beat Matt Hardy. But I do think there's something there with Darby. And it's time to just, keep going with single matches and let him, win by the skin of his teeth. And then if, if you have a heel or a face beat him, it looks good. You could have a face beat him. He could get the respect factor. You have a heel beat him, and, that heel's going to gloat about it. So this is the Darby Allin I want to see, picking up singles wins with his TNT championship. I started to say United States TNT title and just keep rolling along. Are you a fan of Darby Allin by any chance, Greg, or how are you feeling about Darby Allin in the TNT title?
I am a big fan of Darby Allin. The moment I saw him, I saw he was something different, and it went beyond the face paint. His moveset, his promo style, very avant-garde, very different, and that's what you need. You need to set yourself aside, apart from everybody else. There's hundreds of wrestlers in your company, so what do you do to distinguish yourself? And he distinguished himself from day one. And he's shown in the ring that he's worthy of being recognized and, being the champ and being somebody people can get behind and not being a lovable loser, not being like a Mick Foley. Somebody who's, he gets it done at the end of the day. He gets his butt kicked for 19 out of 20 minutes, or maybe not that extreme, but but he finds a way to get it done. And, that's that, underdog superhero that we all look for. But everything from the look to the way he moves to his match quality is always on top. I like the Sting thing in the beginning because, the parallels he drew, that looks like somebody that I recognize sitting up there in the rafters with, black and white. So we remember, the Crow Sting back in the day. So it was funny when he, mentioned that from the beginning. But the same thing's played out. So it's like you said, it's time to let him do his thing by himself and, get these wins and, get people, support him and, build the championship and build the company in the process.
Exactly. And I love your comparison of Mick Foley. And of course, then we think again, Mick Foley had fans, fans there. Like, I think Darby would be a little bit further ahead if there would have been fans, because the fans want to get behind him. Because like you said, if you're getting your ass kicked, the fans are going to see that you care. But with the virtual stuff, we can't show that. And, yes, you have the wrestler fans there, but, they're they do their own thing, it seems like. Yes, you have the heels and the face side, and there's starting to get, more fans there. But until that happens, it is kind of tough. But I hadn't even thought about your Mick Foley comparison. So I think that's even a better one than the Sting one. because it's funny to think about Sting as well, was Beach Blonde and the face paint, colorful face paint, then become the Crow. And then his TNA stuff was different. So,
Right.
But Darby Allin is somebody that, like you said, it's something different that we can gravitate towards. Now's the time just to let it roll. Double or nothing. Give him a big win over, I don't know, Wardlow or somebody like that. Wardlow is probably going to go against, with the Jake Hager. But anyways, somebody, that's kind of that mid-level, but could be a main event talent. So, So we have hit the 2-hour mark. Congratulations, longest running episode of Superkickin with Steven.
Hey.
I think next week we might get back to the hour just so people don't, wear out on us. But feel free to watch us in segments because I've always complained about podcasts that go on too long, and now I'm doing it. So we're going to stop it right here, Greg. I thank you so much. We're going to have you back next week and the week after and the week after because you know what? I love to have you here. And we'll get my friend Jay involved with our prediction show. If there's ever a week you can't be here, you just let me know. But obviously, we love talking wrestling with you, and we might have to call it Superkickin with Steven and Greg pretty soon, which is really funny because I have a brother named Greg. So there you go.
Wow, no kidding.
But you are not my brother, I don't think. So
hey, we're wrestling brothers. That's what
brother from another mother. So, anyways, thank you for joining us. Whew, I need a drink after this show. I don't know about you, but I appreciate the love. We had our friend Johnny in there. I don't know who the hell he was, but he was in the chat to sweeten us and giving us plenty of good thoughts. So
put it there for him.
Put it there for him. Anyways. So join us next week, and thank you for the great show.